All right, welcome back. We're at 10 Barrel Brewing today for the NBA draft, about an hour away from getting started. The Atlanta Hawks will pick first, Blazers 7th, and we thought 14th, but they have since traded the 14th pick. And here to talk about that and what the Blazers may be doing tonight and throughout the summer is Sean Highkin, Rose Garden Report. He joins us now here on The Fan. Sean, tell us about the trade the Blazers just pulled off.
Well, I think it's been pretty clear, really since they didn't trade Malcolm Brogdon at the trade deadline back in February, that they were going to have to do something with him this summer because he's going into the final year of his deal, and he just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for a team in the situation that they're in, and especially with as many young guards as they have that need playing time. And so you kind of knew that something like that was going to happen. And so what they end up kind of doing with that is they turn him into Deni Avdija, who was a lottery pick with the Wizards in, I believe, 2019, and it's like youngish wing on a signed long term on a value contract. Maybe that can be somebody that they keep in build with Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp, or maybe, that's somebody that's, a guy that would be valuable for a good team. They can even flip him down the line for more assets. It's just kind of a matter of, which way they decide to go. But this was the trade of Malcolm Brogdon was kind of obviously always going to be one of the expected next steps of whatever they do this offseason.
Yeah, I'm looking. He signed a pretty team-friendly deal with Washington, so you've got him under control for 4 more years. Cap hit at 15, 14, 13, and 11. And he's coming off, I was just kind of reading through here. I don't know much about him, but I was reading through. He's a 6'9" guy. Like you said, he was the number 9 overall pick a couple years ago, and definitely a breakout year. And it sounded like, at least, from what I'm reading here, that the Wizard fans and people that covered him were pretty high on him and thought that, the young man might actually have something to offer, and that we're just kind of scratching the surface. So could be a guy that maybe in a year or two really pops for Portland.
Could be. And I'll tell you this, just in the 10 minutes or whatever since this has happened, I was I'm at the Blazers practice facility right now in Tualatin because they're doing like draft availability stuff later tonight after the draft, and we're all kind of there looking at Twitter, and all the stuff that I've seen since this trade became public was this is all it took to get Deni Avdija, and this is it in contrast to kind of some of the ways that some other deals that this front office has made in the past, where people are kind of, like the Josh Hart one or the Drew Holiday one, where in retrospect, people are talking about how they gave that guy up for not very much. From the early reactions, it seems like they're kind of on the other side of this one.
Yeah, because is it confirmed it's Brogdon, the 14th pick, and a 2029 pick?
Yeah, I believe it's the lesser. So they have obviously their own first round pick, and they have the Celtics 29 first round pick, which they got in the Drew Holiday trade. So whatever is the lesser of those two picks is what they're going to send to Washington, I believe.
So it does sound like, obviously, Portland's pretty high on him when you consider, that's you would think that Brogdon would have some suitors out there, and maybe the 14th pick, is that a product of, again, not loving this draft? But, I don't know if you're going to find someone in the draft over the next 2 years that's going to average 15 and 8 for you.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I'll tell you what, I had been spending the last few days thinking, and they have brought in a lot of guys that are kind of projected to go in that range, Zach Edey being one of them, Keyshawn George out of Miami, Tristan Da Silva out of Colorado. They have worked guys out who are kind of in that range, and I had kind of been under the impression that they probably were going to use both of their lottery picks. Now they just have the 7th pick. Maybe they didn't maybe they just didn't find, they felt like Deni Avdija is a better player, both short-term and long-term, because, again, he is on a pretty, below-market contract for the next 4 years, that maybe they felt like that's going to be better value than anybody that they would have drafted in that range. I don't know. I'm still kind of putting the pieces together and figuring out, and I'm really interested to see also how this impacts what they actually decide to do at 7, which we'll find out about in probably about an hour and a half.
That's what I was wondering. Does this kind of feel then, because the idea was a big man and a wing, does this mean, you kind of go all in? Is it possible that they would have the guts then to move up, to Klingon? If he's not going to be there at 7, do you think at this point it's all in and getting your big, even if you have to move up from 7?
I don't know. I mean, I do know they do like Donovan Clingan a lot, and I do think that if he was there at 7, I'm pretty sure that's who they would take. I don't know if this means they would move up. I also just wonder if, and this is entirely just me, wondering out loud here, but I had kind of always felt like if they, at the 7th pick, let's say Clingan is off the board, they would probably take, one of the swings on one of those wings with higher upside, like Cody Williams out of Colorado or Tijan Salon out of France. Now I kind of wonder if they're going to take Dalton Connect from Tennessee with that pick as kind of more of a, plug and play win now guy. If this Deni Avdija move kind of signals that might be the direction they're going in, it's going to be very interesting to talk to Joe Cronin tonight after the first round concludes. I'll say that.
And by the way, Woj just had another one. So it is for the lesser of the 2029 first-round picks, and they're including 2 second-round picks as well. We're not sure what those second-round picks are, but it's a pretty good haul for the Wizards, I would think.
I mean, I guess it's not like.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of number of picks, yeah. I don't know if second-round picks are. This is also kind of an interest. This is all just kind of like. So I'm kind of all over the place. This is just all
Yeah.
We're
all trying
to 10 minutes before you called, so I'm still trying to figure out kind of everything that's going on.
Yeah, this is Sean Highkin, Rose Garden Report. Okay, so why help me with something, and I don't even know if it's true, but what do you know about? So we were talking about not Dalton Connect, but the big guy from Clingan. And then also the Blazers linked to Zach Edey. Again, don't know if that's true. But why would the Blazers be looking so closely at these big, more statuesque bigs? How does that fit? Do you think that's true? And if so, how does that fit with what they already have?
I do think those are both guys that they're interested in. With Clingan, it's kind of obvious that, they're one of the worst, rim protection teams in the league last year. They're actually the second worst in the league behind Washington, who they just traded with. And Donovan Clingan was one of the best rim protectors in college the last few years at UConn. And so that would, solve a pretty big need right there. And then Edey, I do think their interest in Edey is real. I don't know how real it is now that that they traded out of 14. I don't know if I really see them taking him at 7, but I do think if they had kept the 14th pick, that's somebody they would have had interest in.
Yeah, it'd be a bold move. This fan base is reeled a few times over the last couple seasons. Something tells me we might have a mutiny if you went Zach Edey at number 7.
Yeah, but then you'd see a couple of Olympic highlights this summer, and people would come back around. That's usually how it works.
Well, he's intriguing. I mean, just due to his size. But I think a lot of those guys, oftentimes have to ride the bench because they just get I remember I go back to Hassan Whiteside when he was here, or maybe it was in Miami. They were in the playoffs and he was rendered useless because I don't know. It's just the way the game's going. To go after a couple of guys like that, but I get it. Rim protector, defense. Who do you believe the Blazers believe are their cornerstones right now of the guys that they have?
I think the most likely guys to be here long term, as it sits right now, are probably Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe.
Okay. So do you think that's possible that Simons gets dealt this summer?
Possible, certainly. I don't think they're actively looking to, but I don't think he's untouchable. I think if I were them right now, this would be the summer where I would, maybe look at that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe describe if you can, what stage the Blazers are in their rebuild. I mean, they've got all these young guys, but they've also got, we just traded Brogdon, and then Jeremy Grant will likely be dealt. Where are they at in all this, and how? And for fans listening, how much of a timeline, or what can you outline what a timeline for them and to be complete with this rebuild?
Well, it all depends on when they get the guy, whoever the guy is. And you kind of know it when you see it. When teams that have high draft picks, whether it's Minnesota, you get Anthony Edwards. Now you have the guy. Orlando, you get Paolo Banchero. Now you have the guy. Obviously, with the Spurs with Wemby. Now, once you know who the guy is, then that kind of makes it easier to move forward. I don't think they have that. Whoever that guy is, that's going to be their centerpiece when they're theoretically contending for in the playoffs in a few years. I don't know if maybe Scoot turns into that guy, maybe Shaden turns into that guy, maybe whoever they draft tonight at number 7 turns into that guy. As of right now, they don't have that guy. Yeah. If they are bad again next year and they hit the number 1 pick in the lottery and they get Cooper Flagg, and Cooper Flagg is that guy, then that accelerates some things. But
right.
It all just depends on when the guy who's the number 1 guy is in the door.
Yeah, I would say it's like in the NFL, if you don't have a quarterback, it's like, hey, we've got a great defensive line or we've got a great receiver. Cool. Find a quarterback, because if you don't have it, I'm not saying the rest of it doesn't matter, but it sure feels like it's shuffling a lot of stuff around, and it's not the most significant thing. You have to find a way. Find me an NBA team that doesn't have that guy and is taken seriously in this league. In fact, most teams that are contenders have 2 of those guys.
Yeah, that's really what it's all about, especially with the new CBA and some of those restrictions. Getting that guy early in their career when they're still on the rookie scale deal before you have to pay him. That's why they ultimately ended up not trading the number 3 pick in the draft last year, because whoever they was going to be there at number 3, whether it was going to be Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller, whichever one of them was available at 3, you have that guy for 4 years on a pretty cheap contract before you have to pay them if they end up being as good as they're projected to be. And so, especially for a team in Portland's position where, it's not LA, it's not Miami, it's not one of these teams that star players are like lining up to go to. You got to get those guys in the draft. And so that's kind of where the Blazers are at right now. So as far as the timeline, I would expect the Blazers to record-wise to be pretty similar to where they were last year, as far as they're going to try to. I think the plan is to be one of the 5 or so worst teams in the league, and hopefully try to get Cooper Flagg. And then if you can get Cooper Flagg, then you go from there, and then you have your guy if he is actually as good as people say he is. But that's kind of what they're looking at right now.
Is Chauncey the right coach?
He is the coach right now, so they'll tell you this: he is going into the last guaranteed year of his contract. They have not picked up his 5th-year option or given him an extension. My working belief right now is that they're going to let him finish out the final year of his contract, take some more losses, and then next summer when his contract is up, they go in another direction. Maybe they can prove that that's not what they're going to do by picking up his option or giving him an extension. But if they don't, unless they do that, that's kind of where I'm at as far as how I see that going.
So what would you like to see them do with the 7th pick?
Personally, if it were me, I would take a swing on either Cody Williams or Tijon Salon. One of the wings that's kind of more of a long-term development project, but has a lot of has star upside if it hits. The Blazers are still kind of in the position where they need to be trying to find that guy, and they feel like one of these guys maybe has an outside chance of becoming that. I think that's the kind of swing they need to be taking right now.
Love it. Sean Highkin, you can catch him on the Odyssey app. His podcast is on there. On X, he is at Highkin, Highkin. It is Rose Garden Report. Sean, thanks for peeling away, taking a little time, and enjoy covering the draft tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
You got it anytime. Yeah, we're all kind of...
Well, everyone's trying to figure out who the hell he is.
I know.
I mean, honestly, unless
he's a 23-year-old guy who averages 15 points a game in the NBA, and yet we're all sitting around looking at each other like, I don't know. Can he shoot?
He actually,
what's his shooting percentage?
So he definitely. I was reading about him during the break, and it was definitely a breakout year for him. I was reading a recap.
So he's a former lottery pick.
He was the number 9 overall pick.
So that right there. Look, okay, before you get to that, because I can't wait to hear his stats.
Yes.
But before you get to that, just on the surface, okay, you trade the 14th pick in a bad draft for a lottery pick in a previous draft who was a higher lottery pick who has shown that he can at least average 15 points a game in the NBA. He's a real NBA player, and he shoots.
Oh, shoot. Hold on. Let me pull it up. He shot 37% from the three-point line.
Fantastic.
And overall, he shot 50% from the field, and at the rim, he shot over 70%.
All right. So he can make layups, unlike us.
Well, there's some guys that are bigs that can't finish near the rim. I did reach out to our resident NBA obsessed honk, Deni, and simply asked, who the hell is this guy, and should we be excited? And he did say, indeed, that he loves him.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, he's very high on him. He said, I love him. He's a big-time upside, high-level defender who's
Big
grown
time
his
what?
offensive game. High-level defender who's grown his offensive game, legit size, 6'9".
So he's 6'9". Okay.
So he was a defensive,
I like that.
He was a defensive guy that came in, and for the first couple of years, his offensive numbers were pretty bad. They were not great, and that was what I was reading about during the break. Was the recap was saying that this was a breakout offensive season for him, which is why the Wizards thought, at least the Wizard fans thought, that he was,
All
and
right.
they got him for 4 years on a pretty cheap contract.
Yeah.
So
Hey, I like
look,
it.
all
Hey,
in all,
I like it.
It's. I think this is
Good little
kind
deal.
of a good thing for Portland.
It
seems
seems
like
on paper. His name, if you're wondering what we're talking about, his name is Deni Avdija, and he played for Washington,
out of Israel.
and the Blazers dealt Malcolm Brogdon over there, and a first.
Brogdon, the number 14 pick, and then apparently
2 seconds.
the worst of the 2029 picks between you and Boston, and 2 second-round picks, and I'm not certain what draft those two
Well, now I
picks
think
are
it's a
in.
bad deal.
A lot of picks. But as Sean pointed out, I mean, it seems like a lot, but does anyone care about probably the number 28 pick in the 2029 draft, and does anyone care about 2 second-round picks? God knows when.
Well,
it feels like you gave up Brogdon, who you weren't going to re-sign anyways, and the number 14 pick, and I thought you had a very good point. You gave up number 14 in a bad draft that no one wants to be a part of for a guy who was the number 9 pick just a few years ago that is coming off a breakout season.
It's a little safer. It probably tells you that they didn't like anybody they sniffed around the 14 pick.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
All right. That's the latest on the Blazers.